Yo, it's Shabaam Sahdeeq, and this is the G1TRUTH Podcast with my man Majestic.
All right, y'all know what it is. It's the Garden of Building. It's Majestic. It's my platform. It's my podcast. It's that G1TRUTH Podcast. I want to put you on some game today. I want to introduce to my audience a brother, an MC that I'm bringing on the platform. This brother is known for his super dope, distinguished lyrical style when it comes to MCing. One of the legends when it comes to underground hip hop. An artist hailing from Brooklyn, New York. This brother has some of the sharpest lyricism and selections of some of the dopest and most obscure beats that you're probably ever going to hear in your natural-born hip-hop life. This God body of work includes features alongside music icons that you heard before like Pharoah Monch, Mos Def, Eminem, Busta Rhymes, Redman, Kool G Rap, Common, Talib Kweli, and more that I'm going to let him break down for you. This brother is internationally recognized for his work on classics like Soundbombing and Lyricist Lounge series, all that was coming out of Rawkus Records. He is regarded as one of New York's top underground artists. Before I go any further, let me have the pleasure of introducing the God, the MC, Shabaam Sahdeeq on the platform. What's up, Almighty?
What's going on, man? Salute to all the people out there. Much love, man. Shabaam Sahdeeq.
Before we get started, I just wanted to say it's a pleasure to get you on my platform. I know this has been a long time coming. You know what I'm saying? You're one of my... Everybody got a top 5. You know what I'm saying? And when it comes to underground hip-hop, you are definitely in my top 5 MCs of all time. So I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity for us to just have this conversation and create this little dialogue on my platform. I really appreciate you for that, God.
No doubt, man. I appreciate it. You know what I
mean? Let's just get into it. Let me start off by asking you, and I ask this of most people I interview when it comes to MCing. You know I'm an MC, and I know how I first caught the bug to make me just want to start writing rhymes or rapping, or you know what I'm saying? What was it for you that made you say, I wanted to be an MC?
You know, watching older kids, you know, doing their thing, freestyling and stuff. You know, my childhood was in Vanderveer in Brooklyn, and, you know, it was a lot of older kids that, you know, I hear them freestyling or whatever, and it piqued my interest into being MC. And then, you know, I moved to Jersey City like late 80s, and it was more kids. It was, you know, one of my friends' older brothers, you know what I mean, that started playing certain records for me and put me on the different things that was going on as far as music, you know. And it was another kid that I went to high school with that was an older classmate that was super nice with it. And he made me want to take it serious and started writing, you know, started putting down concepts and putting songs and 16s together.
So you wasn't really inspired by listening. Like for me, I got inspired by listening to other artists. Like one of my inspirations or one of my favorite MCs was like Jimmy Spicer, Super Rhymes Rap. When I first heard him,
I was inspired by a lot of artists. You know what I'm saying? I mean, mainly like the message is what was being played. You know what I'm saying? Around that time, that really caught my ear. You know, the description of the hood that they was given.
They painted that picture.
They painted that picture, and that really, you know, inspired me. It caught me. Yeah,
my favorite line from their song is, "A child is born with no state of mind, blind to the ways of mankind." And
prolific, man, super deep, you know, and that was blaring from every car, you know what I'm saying, when I was like 12, maybe younger, you know what I'm saying? So that definitely opened my ears to it, you know.
You know, it's not the easiest thing, especially, you know, back in the days. You know, we didn't have social media. We didn't have internet.
Nah, everything came via hearing it from somebody's boombox or hearing it from somebody's car
Mm-hmm.
or hearing it and in the courtyard being played by the DJ during a block party.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we heard stuff for real, for real.
So like artists today, they got a little bit of a easier plight, and they have other challenges in different directions when it comes to getting to where they need to be at as an artist. But back in the day, we didn't, like I said, we didn't have internet, we didn't have social media. You had to do things like create your bio, and
You had to do EPKs, and you know what I mean. You had to have like headshots, and you remember those black and white pictures with the headshot?
absolutely.
Yeah, you had to do stuff like that.
So, how was your transition from being this kid that was watching other people in your neighborhood rhyming to developing yourself as an artist? And now you're starting to enter the space where you're trying to get a deal and you're trying to get signed. How did you build the momentum to start to push yourself in that space? And then what was that process like?
Well, I was one of those kids that I always went traveling. If I moved to a different neighborhood, I always walk for blocks. I always move around. So, you know, my whole childhood and teenage years was going from borough to borough or city to city and, pursuing different uh, producers. Somebody might have had a 4-track in the Bronx that was connected to my man, and we'll travel to the Bronx and we'll work on his 4-track, or we'll do a couple demos, or I might, go somewhere in Jersey where somebody got a studio, and we'll work on things. So I was always constantly traveling through the tri-state area, um, going to open mics, stuff like Lyricist Lounge, you know what I mean? Different open mics in the area, and just getting busy, man, and building my connects. And one thing led to another, and deals made themselves possible. You know what I mean?
So, but the whole deal space, the process, like for me, as a young kid that was inspired by hip hop and not only wanted to rap and be an MC, but I wanted to make a record. That transition, I started reaching a lot of stumbling blocks, and then there was the percentage of other people that was able to overcome that and actually get into that space where they're actually sitting down with A&Rs and y'all actually sitting down politicking about the potential of you having an album deal or a single deal. What was it like for you to get in that space, and how did you get to that point?
A lot of things happened by mistake. You know what I mean? I met certain producers, and I was being sprinkled with different game. Certain A&Rs see me at open mics. Some regular dudes were in those positions to be able to bring me to the labels. But I think the first thing that really turned in my career was actually pressing up and putting records out myself. Once those records started circulating and getting played by college radio and different shows, different deals started to be offered to me. You know what I mean? Because the records were actually getting traction.
You was definitely putting in that work.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So that made it a lot easier for A&Rs. Do you think that A&Rs was able to see you, and you think maybe they were saying like, "Yo, this guy's putting in some work," so you are a more bankable artist than other people who they had to kind of like maybe step out on blind faith? They could see the work that you was putting. Is that a safe thing to say?
Yeah, that's safe to say, because we were doing demos. I think the first person to play like one of my demos on air was Stretch Armstrong.
Big shout out to Stretch Armstrong and Barbito and WKCR 89 Tech 9. We know what that is.
Yeah, and Martin Moore and Mayhem. So first demo that I started getting played was Do or Die, and songs like On a Mission. You know what I mean? Those songs were getting played, and then there were other things like I don't know if you remember Echo, the clothing line Echo.
Of course.
They used to have tapes called Echo Unlimited. And my boy got me on one of those. As a matter of fact, it's a Nick Wiz track.
Big shout out to Nick Wiz.
Yeah, that was on Echo Unlimited Airplay. So every time you bought a piece of Echo clothing, it came with a tape, and that mixtape was done via Lyricist Lounge. So I had a song on there called Sexy, and other songs. You know what I mean? And those things started to snowball. I started to appear on different things. Nick Wiz is one of those producers I met when I moved from Jersey City to Teaneck. And he already had his thing going. He had a full studio and whatever, and we used to get in there and get busy. But like I said, like I was meeting a lot of different producers, like my boy Jocko. You know what I mean? He the one that was like, man, we should just put out a joint ourselves. You know what I mean? So this is the first joint that we put out. It's called So Real. You know what I mean? And It Could Happen was the B-side.
Is that a reprint or an actual original copy?
This is an actual original copy. Like a fan found this, you know what I mean, in a record store somewhere in California, and he mailed it to me. So Real, which was more of a radio type song, Red Alert was playing this on a 5 o'clock free ride. You know what I mean?
That was a major big deal back in the day.
Yeah, because it was during rush hour.
Yeah, so, and it's daytime radio play.
And people get stuck in their car, they hearing people calling me, yo, you on the radio. So It Can Happen was the side that, Stretch Armstrong and Underground Railroad and Martin Moore and Mayhem and all of them were playing.
Dope.
So that was the B-side. But yeah, and we got a distribution with Freeze.
Freeze Records.
Freeze Records, they put out like EPMD and, tons of other legendary shit, but we were able to get, distro with Freeze, So, I mean, the transition from making demos to actually having records, made a big difference. Plus, I was walking around with stacks of these running up on DJs like, yo, giving them my shit like, yo, play this, you know what I mean? So it was a different grind.
Another thing that brothers had to do that cats ain't really doing that today. Don't have to.
You got MP3s. You mail MP3s out before you had to walk around with a stack of these and actually give them to a DJ.
You had to politic.
Yeah, you had to really politic.
Well, some of your more notable work was like when you started working with Rawkus. And then I would, and hope it's a safe assumption to say, you started to reach like what I would call underground classic status.
I didn't know that then. Then we were just making music, man. We was going to Fat Beats, bringing records. They used to have freestyle sessions up there.
Big shout out to Fat Beats for real, because that was a place that was like a gladiator school.
Facts.
Big shout out to Percy P, because he's notoriously known for standing in front of Fat Beats independently, like pushing his craft with CDs. And
Percy P was definitely one of the first people I used to see out there heavy with his CDs, pushing it,
selling it hand-to-hand combat.
The only person that's missing is Percy P out in front of hustling the stage. You know what I mean? We gotta shout Percy out because he stood post out front for many years and taught cats how to hustle out of a bag.
Facts.
So
hand-to-hand combat. But like everything came gradual. I had a friend named Eddie Rivera that was assistant to radio at Def Jam. So whenever we came out with vinyls or whatever, we would go up to Def Jam, and two of my other mans worked in the mailroom, and we would stuff the envelopes with my stuff that was going out. They might have had Foxy Brown or DMX going out, and we would stuff the envelopes with my stuff. And Eddie would make calls and be like, "Oh, you check that other record? That's my artist." I had another manager named Ruby Red Ruby Red kind of introduced me to Rawkus. And, you know, it was a lot of interest. Like, they were with it. But until I started really releasing my own stuff, were they down to do it. So, you know, my first 2 single deals with them led to an album.
So let's talk about the Rawkus joints with the singles like the Sound Clash and one of my favorites, 5 Star Generals. I think Eminem was on that joint.
Yeah, that was my second single with Rawkus. You know what I'm saying? Sound Clash and, you know, B-side with 5 Star Generals with Eminem, Scam, AL, and Quest. The first one was...
Do you remember what year that dropped?
I think it was 9/7. Yeah, 1997. You know, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 1997. But before that, I had a single called Side to Side and Arabian Nights. That was the first single that I did with Rawkus. Yeah. So the first side, the A side, Side to Side, was done by my man Jocko, who produced my actual first one. You know what I mean? And the B side was produced by Nick Wiz. So those were like the 2 main producers that I was working with at that time.
It seems like you did a lot of work with Nick Wiz, though.
Nah, yeah, Nick Wiz, you know, Nick Wiz lived where I was living at the time. I lived in Teaneck for a couple of years, so he was like my go-to producer, you know. I worked with a lot of other producers at that time, too, that were like instrumental in me learning how to put songs together, like Mark Sparks out of North Carolina. Like, we did a lot of joints, and one of my first professional gigs came from him, as well as other people. Like, I did a song with an artist named Joya on Atlas Polygram. I appeared on one of her singles. Yeah, so I was on Joya's record on Atlas Polygram, you know, produced by Mark Sparks. And yeah, that was like one of my first gigs. Another one of my first gigs, like professional gigs, came through Nick Wiz and Chubb Rock, when Chubb Rock was A&R at Capitol with Blue Note. So they put me onto this project called Us Three, which was like a jazz hip hop fusion project. And you know, it was like around the time of Jazzmatazz, and you know, when people were using jazz samples, it was cool.
You know, Bam, it seemed like more than any other artist I pay attention to, that it seems to me like you gained a lot of attention from record labels and A&Rs. Like, obviously you put yourself on, but you definitely, from putting yourself on, you didn't really have to present yourself the way that other artists really got to push it. Like, they really came checking for you. Is that a safe assumption, or you still had to kind of like?
Nah, I was walking my dogs, bro. I was going to meet up with people. They might see me at an open mic, or they might hear something through somebody, and I would go have those meetings. You know what I'm saying? I was being pulled into those meetings, like, you know. I forgot who we met Will Sokoloff through for us to get that distribution for that first joint. But yeah, I was walking my dogs. I was going everywhere. I remember when Stretch Armstrong and them had a label called Dolo. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I used to go up there frequently. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get a deal. Same thing with Def Jam. Like, I would have loved to have been signed to Def Jam. I was there a lot in the 90s because my boy Eddie worked there. So, you know, I was around them people a lot. But I think the opportunities presented themselves when I was in a position putting things out. You know, people was able to pull me in. You know, mainly Rawkus. You know, and those first 2 singles did really, really well. You know,
absolutely. So when you started, really, you pushed out a lot of solo work. beyond your features, you got like a lot of released numerous solo projects with albums like Never Say Never. I think that was in 2001. And Recognize Your Power.
Yeah, Recognize Your Power was actually a collaboration album.
Oh, that was a collab.
Yeah, with me, Edo G, and Focus. But you know, I got, you know, joints like Keepers of the Lost Art. This is from 2012. You know what I mean? Between 12 and 14. Then I got Precious Stones with J57. This was like 2018 maybe. Oh no, 2020. And then I got Timeless of the Collection, which was like 18. You know what I mean? I got joints that I did when I came home from prison. Off Parole, Relentless 1, Relentless 2. Things like that.
When you got out, was you definitely more was your hunger different for the rhyme, or what was your feelings like? You know what I'm saying? I know what I was feeling like. I did a stretch, so when I was coming out of Bing, I was like a bunch of different emotions that I was trying to capture lyrically. So what mental space was you in as far as being, because you was an artist prior to?
Yeah, facts. Man, I was just writing crazy up there. I think it was more focused, and a lot of those albums that came after that was written in there, you know, if not at least a couple verses, you know what I mean? So yeah, I was in there writing heavy. I was focused. I was reading a lot of books. So yeah, that was the outcome, all these albums. But you know, I got a lot of group albums too. Like I was part of a group called Polyrhythmatics, which was on Nervous. You know what I mean? And we had
big shout out to Spinner.
Yeah, we had an album called Break Glass. No, matter of fact, we had Rhyme Related was first, and then Break Glass came after. But I don't have the Break Glass, but I got the I don't have the Rhyme Related, but I have Break Glass.
Wow.
This was I think this was 2007. You know what I mean? With Spinner, Complex, and Ty Phoenix. The first album came out in the 90s, maybe like 97 or 98. It was called Rhyme Related. So,
you know, Spinner has like, I never met him personally. I'm just going by what I've seen, but in other interviews, the way he speaks about music, I relate to it because I feel the same energy, that the passion, there's something inside, there's knowledge base. What was it like working with Spinner?
Yeah, Spinner's got a vast knowledge of music. You know what I mean? He has a crazy collection of vinyl and records and stuff like that. So, you know, working with him, everything just came natural. I think the reason I linked up with Polyrhythmatics at first, Complex called me to be on a posse cut, and you know, I got to Spinner's lab, and we just started recording all kind of records. You know what I mean? Like we did Lyrical Fluctuation, we did What If with L Fudge, we did you know, stuff for Jake Masters, we did 5 Star Generals. Yeah, those are like some classic sessions, man. And we did that first Polyrhythmatic, Rhyme Related, Motion 2000, Take Me Home. You know, all those records came out of Spinner's basement. Yep.
You know, you most recognized for your joints with like Sound Clash and going back to the 5 Star Generals that featured Eminem and a whole bunch of other people. But what gained the most significant attention for you, at least in my opinion, was that Simon Says remix with Pharoah Monch.
My thugs throw up your set, shorties rubber your breasts. Get the fuck up out of that dress on palm tips. You heard get flipped like Jeeps on mountain cliffs. I'm ripped through your chest, hollow point talent tips. Double S, double the threat, double your bet. Double up on that cash cash if you decide to invest. You sound like Big, you sound like J, you sound like D. And I bet when I go plat, you sound like me. Shabaam Sahdeeq, injure your fleet, instant delete. Y'all crabs are weak, frail like a fiend's physique. I stay on the street, stay on the beat, stay with the heat, stay sticking fools like you for the rocks that gleam. So toss that link, dummy, should've insured that link. Shake the canal and praise that link, then pawn that link. You froze up, Sahdeeq says shut the fuck up. Punk niggas get gun butt up and tied up.
So how was you able that when I first heard the track, it was a monster track. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely a classic joint, you know what I mean? From Pharaoh Monch. Salute to him. He showed a lot of love. I was on songs with him like World War III, which was on Soundbombing 2, I think it is. And you know, different records. Yeah.
How did that happen? How did you get to the point of Monch is like, yo, I want you on the Simon Says shit?
I mean, you know, Monch was hearing a lot of my earlier works. Plus, we had the same management. So I think a culmination of both of those things, you know, made me appear on certain records. You know what I mean?
You always got this, every time I see you, you always got a demeanor that's like, you're not fazed by anything. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of shit coming up, you know what I mean? I've seen a lot of artists come and go.
When you did the Simon Says remix, if it was me, I would have like fucking jumped to the ceiling. I would have, you know what I'm saying? I would have been so excited. How did that?
Nah, I was excited, man. That song was blowing up, you know. But when I went to lay my verse, I was pretty much in the studio alone. I think Busta Rhymes came after. And he did his verse. I was there when he laid some of his verse. You know, he'd be laying verses in the dark and shit. But yeah, when I laid it, I didn't know it was gonna be a posse cut. One, I didn't know if I was gonna make it on it. And three, you know what I'm saying? It was really bigger than what I thought it was gonna be. That record started picking up a lot of steam.
This is no disrespect to any other artist that was featured on that track. I want to repeat that. This is no disrespect to any other artist. All the MCs on that Simon Says remix was dope. And I'm not saying this because you hear I'm not a dick rider. Yo, but you venomously murdered that verse.
I appreciate it.
You seriously killed that shit.
For me, when I laid it, you know, and I heard it later, I was like, damn. I felt I could have went harder because I heard who was on it.
Mm-hmm.
Red and Meth, Pharaoh, Busta Rhymes, and Lady Luck. I was like, damn. I wanted a do-over, but, you know, everybody was like, nah, this is good. Leave it. You know what I mean? Word. At first they had it a little bit off. When I first heard it and they placed everybody, you know, when they move vocals around, I was a little offbeat. So even in the final, I feel like I was still a little behind the beat, but now that's a style. You know what I'm saying?
True.
You know, years later, people like, oh, that verse, you killed it. But I feel like I could have even did better. You know what I'm saying?
What do you feel about your status being notarized or being known for being one of the dopest like underground MCs? Because that title underground gets thrown around a lot. Like if you're not getting radio play or you're not like, you know, this whatever person that is seen in the singles and, you know, kind of that space, they would just naturally put you in an underground category because, you know, you're not in that arena, but you really are like an underground MC.
I think they took underground and independent almost.
Right, that's what I meant to say.
Thing. Yeah, it almost means the same thing. You know what I mean? But then they, you know, now there's subgenres. You know what I mean? If you're not rhyming heavily about crime, or you're not, you know, rhyming about certain things, or the record is not a commercial record, they automatically throw you in the underground category. I felt like I just landed there because of the people I was working with. One, the labels that I was on, like Nervous or, you know what I'm saying, Rawkus, but I had radio records, but those wasn't the ones that were blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that were getting to play were the most grungy, hardcore underground records. You know what I'm saying? So that's
Like, because not anybody that's like not out is considered underground. But what I remember, underground was really the core of where the dopeness was coming from. And you couldn't just like not be out to be considered underground. You had to be dope there first before you can like step out on any other platform. You had to come to the battle zone. You know what I'm saying? You had to sharpen your blades in this arena.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Pretty much. I mean, that's what my teenage life was like, man. I was going to different places like Washington Square Park. We used to be in there rhyming for hours, you know. People like Pumpkinhead.
Big shout out to Pumpkinhead. Rest in peace to Pumpkinhead.
Rest in peace. AL Skills, you know what I'm saying? Mos Def used to be down there. Quali, you know, Brooklyn Academy, just different rappers, you know what I'm saying? Used to be in Washington Square Park getting it on. You know, that's where I met a lot of the people that I still work with till today. You know what I mean? Word up.
So what are your thoughts right now about the underground scene as it stands today? Underground hip hop today. What's your thoughts on that?
I feel like it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a space for you to do raw hip hop. You know, a lot of people come out from the underground and they make it to a bigger arena. You know what I mean? I mean, most notably now, you know, people like Griselda. Like I seen them on the come up. I seen them doing joints, putting out records that, you know, got some notoriety and then eventually it elevated. You know, I think it's a beautiful thing, man. I think there's a lot of sub-genres in the underground now. You know, you may have, you know, like that Rock Marciano style. I think he ushered in, you know what I'm saying, a lot of the Griselda stuff. Then, you know, you got like the 90s based underground artist that was killing it since the 90s is still doing music like Bad Seed, AL Skills, and, you know what I'm saying, Thurston Howe the Third, you know, still around doing it heavy today.
You definitely wearing the crown, in my opinion, when it comes to underground hip hop. But you know, I'm always listening to your material. I'm always checking for something new, and so I'm always digging. You know, not digging through the crates, but digging through the internet, looking, just researching you. Period, as I would do with any other artist. And this word keeps popping up. It's like alternative. It seems like you're always being considered an alternative MC when I see you on the internet for some reason, and I don't view it that way. I don't see you that in that light.
I think that came from when I was with Us Three and I did the jazz album. I think my bio was made then, and they put alternative in there because, you know, the first thing I did professionally was the Us Three project, Broadway and 52nd. So that was considered alternative hip hop, and that went on my Wikipedia page. So all of the people who snatch shit from Wikipedia, they left that in there, alternative. You know,
but you definitely not considering yourself an alternative MC.
What does alternative mean? It
Yeah,
means,
I'm like, alternative to what? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. It's like it's hip hop. You know, whether it be jazz based, whether it be you know, I'm rhyming over salsa samples, it's still hip hop, regardless. Like I said, there's a lot of subgenres now, and people want to put shit in neat boxes, but it's hip hop. You know.
One thing I can definitely say is that you're an artist in every sense of the word, and for anybody that's watching this, they're gonna take a look around, not just you, but you can take a look at the backdrop, and they're gonna see these paintings.
Yeah, painting, you know, painting is really my first love when it comes to hip hop. It's the first element that grabbed me.
So you can add this to your repertoire as well as you being an MC. So what made you step into that arena and become a painter? Because I mean, I got some of your pieces. So
I mean, this the first element that got me. You know, as a kid growing up in New York, walking with my mother into the train station, and those big cars with end-to-end burners, you know what I mean, with art from top to bottom, is what really excited me. Like, I was like, wow, the colors and everything. You know what I mean? Not until later was where I, you know, put it together that they go together. You know what I mean? So I was always intrigued by graffiti. I was always doing graffiti. I was running around with black books, you know, and yeah, that was a thing, man. They call us backpack, you know what I'm saying? They say that you know, that's another subgenre, backpack, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Backpack rap.
Yeah, but back in the days, you know, now it's considered like, I don't know, it's like some nerd shit or I don't know. But back in the days, that's what we was running around. We was running around with backpacks. You know what I mean? I might have like 2 spray cans in there. I might have my black book. I might have my rhyme book. You know what I'm saying? A sweater that I stole from a department store. And all that was in my backpack. That's where the term came from. It was really like...
Including the hammer.
Yeah. Might have a hammer, might have a knife, might have an orange box cutter. So, you know...
Speaking of the backpack and the sweater you might have stole, you know what I'm saying? You also affiliated with like Low Lives. I don't know if I could say you're one of the originators, but you're definitely immersed and entrenched in low life business. So for people that don't know what low life is, can we break that down for them?
Yeah, Low Life is a squad, you know what I mean? One side from MGV, you know what I mean, Marcus Garvey Village, and the other side from Utica and St. John's, you know what I'm saying?
Utica.
Remsen. Nah, yeah, so they came together and they made the Low Lives. Now, I wasn't there in the beginning, you know what I'm saying? My affiliation with Thurston Howe, my friendship with Thurston Howe, obviously because we both did work with Rawkus, led me to being part of the Low Lives. But I wasn't there in the beginning. I'm definitely not one of the originators, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I was doing my own thing around that time, and I used to see a lot of Low Lives, you know, and I was out doing kind of like the same things. I was out there stealing shit. I was out there writing on stuff, you know, and, you know, eventually I became part of the Low Lives, but later on down the line, you know what I mean? And yeah, Thirst brought me in, so now I rep Low Lives, definitely low life culture, you know what I'm saying?
How do you feel about being a painter? Does it do something to you? Or
it does the same thing music does for me, you know what I'm saying? It's expressive, you know what I mean? And I feel like they go hand in hand. A lot of time when I'm painting, you know, I get my inspiration from music. And a lot of time when I'm making music, I might get my inspiration from visual art that I've seen. So I feel like they go hand in hand, you know? I heard somebody said that art is really is frozen music. But I don't think it's frozen at all. I think it's just another outlet to express how you feel inside. You know what I mean? Yeah.
well, you never stop making music. You always putting out something. And right now you got some joints out, and one of the joints is Cold Truth.
Yeah, Cold Truth is a single from my album, my forthcoming album called Outside the Lines. You know? Yeah.
The Outside the Lines, are you grabbing that concept because you're a painter? Does that have anything to do with it, or?
Yeah, the concept basically means, you know what I'm saying, a lot of people, they want to put stuff in neat boxes, or they want to have paint by numbers. And, you know, a lot of times I color outside of the lines, whether it be with art or music. I'm always trying to break the boundaries and go outside of the lines and create what I want to create. You know what I'm saying? Wow.
So
See my stack of vinyl.
yeah, I'm peeping that, and a lot of the stuff you got in that crate is original pieces.
Yeah, no question, man. That's a lot of my raucous joints.
So it's safe to say, like, a lot of those records you got are definitely over 20 years old.
Yeah, most of them. You know, got some new joints in there. Concrete with Exhibit. That's an old raucous joint.
Mm-hmm.
Are You Ready? Produced by Alchemist.
Oh, wow.
That's an old school raucous joint.
Big shout out to Alchemist. Man, that guy's putting in some work.
Sporty
Sporty
Thieves, No Love. This is actually my first album that came out, you know, on Raptivism, 2001.
That's double.
Yeah, this was after Rawkus, because my album with Rawkus didn't come out as a whole. You know what I mean? I had some kind of discrepancies with them, and you know, I was able to garner a release. You know what I mean? So I could do this album, but then I got locked up right after this shit. You know, and then we get into the newer joints. You know, the joint with Edo G and Focus. A joint I did in Amsterdam with some Amsterdam producers. This joint is called Modern Artillery.
I think, did you do some work with Soul Messiah?
Yeah, I'm on his new mixtape.
Yeah, he's pretty dope. Dope producer, man.
Yeah, we working on the album right now. You know what I mean? And then of course, you know, the polyrhythmatic stuff. I appeared on DJ Skid's album. Lewis Parker. You know,
that's crazy.
Different joints, man. You know what I'm saying? J-Mo Gang, which is my boy El Gant and Razcast. I'm on that album too. You know what I'm saying? Kamala. I'm on this Razcast album. You know what I mean? Different shit. This right here was definitely an inspiration in my
Hold it up a little higher. That's definitely classic material.
This was one of my inspirations right here in my younger years. Man.
Yeah.
My man Trash. You know what I'm saying? I'm blessed to do a couple joints with him. You know what I mean? But this definitely was an inspiration to my style for sure.
Yeah, Intelligent Hoodlum was a joint. And it's anybody that's from up top that was watching Ralph McDaniel's Video Music Box, Channel 31.
Man, his joints still resonate now, man.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Arrest the President.
Absolutely. Arrest the President.
You could play that right now.
And it applies.
That's
crazy, and it applies. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, the joints that you got out now, let's let the people know where they can find your material at and be able to cop and support. And
ShabaamSahdeeq.com. That's ShabaamSahdeeq.com. You know what I mean? Everything. I try to keep everything centralized there. You know. Also, my Shabaam Sahdeeq Bandcamp has a lot of my stuff. Yeah, pretty much. But you know, it's stuff all over the internet. Some songs, you know, older songs that I didn't officially put out. You know what I mean? In the channels that are available today, I'm going back and putting them out. You know what I'm saying?
Collecting all those and
re-releasing them, yeah. Like this joint right here, like I'm definitely gonna re-release this. You know what I'm saying? So real and it can happen. This is like one of my really, really older joints. You know, some of those demos you might have heard on radio shows, you know what I mean? Like Stretch and Bob, I'm putting all those out. You know, it's a process. I got so many songs.
When we chopped it up earlier, you talked to me about your autobiography.
Oh yeah.
You want to get into that with the people, or you don't want to share that right now?
Nah, yeah, I'll talk about it. I don't have a title for it, but I'm halfway through writing it. I'm like in the middle, and you know, basically, it's talking about my teenage years to now. You know, all the places that I moved. You know, from Brooklyn to Jersey City to Teaneck to the Bronx, you know, to here in Atlanta. You know, all the clubs we used to go to, you know what I'm saying? Cheetahs, Mars, Nels, Two Eyes.
The Muse,
you know, Lion's Den, APT, you know, my little adventures running around the city.
Speed.
Speed, definitely. You know what I'm saying? Bentleys.
Oh my God, Sadie Hawkins night at Bentley's. Shit.
You know what I mean? Even Shadows, man. I used to be up in Shadows.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the OG club.
For sure.
Shadows,
For sure.
Demoraras. You know what I'm saying? Which eventually became Planet 28. You know what I mean? Different encounters with different MCs like ODB. You know what I'm saying? Me and ODB was gonna fight one night in Demoraras. It was called Planet 28 at that time. You know, just different
I'm glad
stuff.
that never happened.
Nah. I think we had mutual peoples and you know what I'm saying, it was diffused, but he was a wild boy.
Yeah, for sure.
He was a wild boy, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, like I got a lot of different things in there talking about you know, my tours with us three, because that was like my first touring experience, rolling around with a full band, you know what I'm saying, going to places like Finland and Croatia and, you know, different things like that. So
the hip hop game definitely let you allowed you to travel all over the world.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. You know what I'm saying?
Were you well received in places like Europe and stuff like that? As much as you was up, you know, in New York or?
Yeah, man. Them European travels is what a highlight of my career, man. Moving through France, I did a lot of shows in France, not only in like big clubs, but also like holes in the wall. Germany, you know what I'm saying? I did some big shows in Germany. I did Hip Hop Camp Festival one time. Yeah, man, all over Europe, man. All over Europe, Southeast Asia, you know. Us three took me to Japan a few times.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Definitely.
So if there was a couple of words that you could use to like summarize your whole career as a whole, because you're not just the MC, you're not just what I claim as like one of the kings of the underground. You know, you are an artist as well as being a painter. You're also a family man with children, and your life has just progressed and blossomed, in my opinion, in a good way, where I'm able to get to this point to even sit down and have a conversation with you about where you've been, all the things you've done, what led you to be an MC, your career as an artist, making records. You know, now you're in this space. You're still MCing. You're a father, a husband,
a barber.
How do you summarize your whole experience as a man in this game of life? What would you have to say about your whole experience?
If I had to pick one word to describe it, I would say maneuvering. You know, maneuvering, because sometimes it's, you know, you moving. It's not comfortable in certain spaces, but you make it happen. It might be better over here, you make it happen. You moving in between spaces, you know, you trying to find that niche that works for you. So I would say maneuvering. You know, that's what I've been doing for most of my life.
Maneuvers.
You know what I'm saying? Whether it be in Europe, whether it be in the United States, whether it be in ATL, whether it be in New York, you know, maneuvers, definitely, you know.
I definitely appreciate you taking the time to like, you know what I'm saying, let me sit down and rap and build with you. I know I call what I do a podcast, but I really try to fashion my shit more in the form of like a dialogue, to be able to sit down and have a one-on-one and let the people hear with artists that I respected and appreciated, artists that, you know, back in the days, if you had a box, you know, your tape deck, whatever it is, it's 1 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and you half sleep in the bed, and you got your head on the pillow, but you got one finger on the pause button because you waiting for Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito to play a joint.
Man,
that one of your joints that wasn't going to get played on BLS or Hot 97, and you finally hear it, and you click it. It's like, I got it. I got this dope verse with this dope song by Bam or Big L or whoever. So, you know what I'm saying? To sit here and have this conversation with you more than anything is like super important to me, because, you know, as a person that loves music, as a person that likes to MC, as a person that's immersed and entrenched in hip hop, being in your presence allows me to constantly renew my history.
I appreciate it, man. Definitely. And for me, it brings back memories. I start thinking about, you know, things that happened in the past. Like my first time being on Stretch Armstrong and Bobito, I was on there with Black Thought. You know what I'm saying?
What could be better?
Right. That shit was ill. We were freestyling, you know what I mean? And yeah, people captured that on a pause tape. The first time I met Black Rob was with Crew. I don't know if you ever heard of Crew.
Crew.
Yeah.
That voice. What song was that? Man, you just hit me. But that dude's voice.
Yeah, man. They had joints, man. Yogi and Chatty O.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
they were really tight. I think Black Rob, God rest in peace.
Yeah, that's how I met Black Rob. The first time I met Black Rob. And the reason I met them is because my boy Eddie.
Damn, what was the name of that song that was so banging?
Man, they had a few joints to me, but you know, yeah.
They was super dope, man.
Super dope. You know, and you know, as we talk, you know, a lot of things are being jogged in my memory, you know, about things that went on in the past. But a lot of it's gonna be in that book. You know,
I'm looking forward to you dropping it. I definitely want my autographed copy because I know it's going to be worth money. And like I said, man, I appreciate you coming on the platform. So for those that know who, this is Majestic. It's the G1 Truth Podcast. I got the God, the S double in the building, Shabaam Sahdeeq, notorious MC, king of the underground. You know what I'm saying? Master of the maneuvers.
That might be the name of the book.
Word.
Maneuvers.
Low Life affiliate. Not to mention, this nigga does Kung Fu.
Nah, I don't do Kung Fu.
What was it? Because I saw it, son. I saw it.
Nah, I'm training in Jiu-Jitsu.
Jiu-Jitsu. To me, I'm a nigga. So all that shit's the same shit. You know what I'm saying? It was
Not
like,
really, man.
I think I saw you doing the toadstyles. It was like 5 deadly venoms or some shit. Yeah.
Nah, I just started learning Jiu-Jitsu, man. I just got in there. I've been in it maybe like 4 months, you know what I'm saying? 4 or 5 months. It's cool, you know what I mean? It's something that keep me in shape in my older age, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's what's up, man.
But it ain't Kung Fu, though. Kung Fu is different.
Hi-ya! You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, I'm signing off. Thank you for coming off the platform. Y'all know what it is. It's the God Majestic. I'm in the building. It's the G1 Truth Podcast. Y'all know the campaign. Y'all know the slogan. Y'all know who I'm with. I go everywhere. I eat everything. I talk to everybody. So, want yourself. We out. Blah.
Peace.
Blood on their hands, blood on my man's destroying the fam. More soldiers died, another mother cries. Anthony Byers, Eleanor Rumpels, Diallo. Let it keep happening, and there's more to follow. It's even deeper than that. Pinel shot in the back. Forever we fighting cuss, but the world's still unjust. So many bullets just to stop one man. Is that the plan? To leave us all dead in the street? Nah.
I'm an opponent of violence. Too many of my guys have become moments of silence.
One God, one love, one aim, one voice, one fight.